Tim Walz as their VP. I mean, good Lord, we dodged a bullet with that guy. Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin, sir, this is not a hard concept. Bad out, keep good in.
Well, listen, Carl, we're either a nation of laws or a lawless nation. Every one of these individuals that have migrated here legally, they left a country because it was probably a third world country, that it was a lawless country. They wanted to come here to have a new start. They wanted to come here for better opportunities, not to have the same thing. But you have these individuals that came in this country illegally. What incentive would they have to actually comply by our laws? And now when we try to get them out, you have Democrat lawmakers that are protecting them. You go, is this really anti-police or anti-American? Because you really do have to have this conversation. Right. Because what separates us from the other countries is we enforce our laws. And these illegals that came here illegally, they're federal fugitives. You can say whatever you want. The Democrats want to make this about immigration. It wants to make this about migrants. They want to make this about, you know, the migrant communities. It has nothing to do with that. It has us simply enforcing our nation's laws, so everybody will have the same opportunity to thrive, period. And if you broke the law, go home. And by the way, if you came over here as a guest and you broke a law, go home too. And we're just happy to enforce it. Now, you played the clips all ago. Clinton talked about this. Obama talked about this. And guess what? The only one doing something about it is President Trump. Yeah. We should be thanking him, not fighting him on this.
Right, I know. And you know, obviously I'm speaking to a lawmaker. Normally I'd say, like, can we make a law about this? But we already have a ton of laws and they're just not abiding by them, including
we do.
In New Orleans. Like, ICE ramped up operations today, and their police chief out there is telling people to call 911 if they're approached by an ICE agent. Watch this.
We have experienced reports in this city, and I'm sure in St. Paul also, where people call to say that there's folks that are masked, that they're not sure if they're law enforcement, that they may be kidnapping people. Like, we have had those reports. I want to be clear to the community. The community should know that if you see something like that, that is legitimate, that you don't know if someone is law enforcement, you should call 911.
That was the Minnesota police chief, and they're also doing this in New Orleans too.
Doesn't he sound just like Mark Kelly? Sowing a little bit of a doubt and dissent there, which is exactly why you see the attacks on law enforcement with ICE up over 1,000%, when they're just simply supposed to be doing their job. And here's the police chief that is saying this. Why aren't you just out there helping them? I mean, why are you allowing them to come in and get the criminals that's on your streets that you probably knew about, but you just chose to do nothing about? But that's what you see when you have a blue city ran by Democrats, and why they have a lawless country or a lawless city. And you know, the good thing about President Trump is he's doing a full approach on our drug and human trafficking and crime across the country, because when you see crime-ridden cities, you'll see crime and drugs and human trafficking following it. So it's, you know, the Democrats now are griping about his narco boats that he's sinking, and he's sending these people to the depth of the ocean. Thank goodness. Yeah. You know, as you know this, Carl, we've lost more on our lawless streets because of drugs. In 2024, there was over 66,500 individuals that died of drug overdoses, and that's more than the entire Vietnam War, which we lost just over 56,000 individuals. And you're griping that President Trump is trying to do this? So you see this full frontal attack on these criminals, that the president is attacking them in our international waters and sinking their boats and keeping the products from coming in, and then he's using DHS and ICE to break down the drug rings, human trafficking rings that's taking place in our cities, and yet the Democrats are fighting us every step of the way, which goes to really, you got to really think about this. It's more about anti-America approach. I mean, do you think Omar really loves our country?
No.
The country, by the way, that took her in, that gave her an opportunity to actually become a lawmaker, which she could have never even done in her own country. Yeah. She doesn't love our country. She wants to change our country. And you're going, okay, well, if you go back to where you came from then. I have no love lost for you if you want to leave. Zero issue with that.
But, I mean, let's be clear, too. Like, her father was a high-ranking military officer in a government that was committing genocide. And the reason she had to flee here is because the people, when the government collapsed, they wanted to, you know, go after her family and kill them. And we took them in our good graces. I want to get to your bill, though. You just had a bill that was signed by President Trump into law. Tell us about it.
Well, it's 988, which is a suicide hotline for our veterans. You think about what happens in your community and in our community. You have veterans that are in a desperate need, and they finally decide that they're going to call for help, which is a hard step because they feel like once that finally happens, they're going to be targeted, right? They finally have to admit they need help, and they make a phone call, and they get a busy dial, or they say the line's disconnected. What we had was the 988 line was so susceptible to cyber attacks that it was completely shut down for 24 hours. And what we did is just said, hey, we got to strengthen this, and we got to make sure that they're not getting a answer machine or getting someone saying, hey, we'll call you back. But when the veteran calls, they have an expert on the phone that's giving them the help, much like we have in our office. We have a gentleman named Sergeant Barnes who was blown up in Iraq and lost his hips. And he runs this program for us, and we work close with law enforcement. So when a veteran calls our office, Sergeant Barnes immediately will get on the phone with them, or if he doesn't answer the hotline himself, and we will have law enforcement go out there, but not law enforcement blaring sirens. That can be bad, but ones that understand the situation, has been trained in the situation to do a wellness check on the individual. And we wasn't treating our national hotline the same way that we treat our local hotline. So we took the experience we have on the state level, and we brought it to the national level.
Yeah, and I from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for doing this. I've had 8 friends now either attempt or succeed in killing themselves since leaving the battlefield. So this means a lot. Senator Mark Wayne Mullin, we appreciate it, sir.
Brother, appreciate you.
All right.